In the spring of 1872, 11 influential men from the Ku Klux Klan vanished. We see blurred silhouettes entering a house. A woman's shadow passes behind them. Not a single body was ever found. No graves. No funerals. Only rumors. Each man was last seen with the same woman. A charred photograph flickers on screen, burned around the edges. On its back, a handwritten note in smeared ink. "Forgive me, Father. The blood was necessary." Cut to black. Slow heartbeat sound, they called her, the Black Widow. The year is 1872, 7 years after the American Civil War. Reconstruction is failing. Anger simmers beneath every porch and church pew. The town of Sin? Aurelius, Georgia should not exist. It appears on no modern map. Railways were rerouted to avoid it. Locals who speak of it stop speaking when you ask why. The town's pride, a white painted chapel, stands at the center like a decaying tooth. It was called the Lamb's Mercy Seminary, a religious boarding school that took in troubled girls. But the official documents contradict eyewitness accounts. State ledgers list only 23 girls enrolled, yet hospital manifests record treating 41 injuries from that same address. Someone was lying. There were rumors of midnight rituals, a locked wing called the Penitent Ward, a priest who demanded absolute obedience, and then a young woman escaped. She carried 3 names: real name, unknown enrollment name, Evelyn Vale, townspeople's name. The widow, her disappearance triggered a chain of events no one would ever write down, except in one man's secret journal. March 3rd, 1872, she watches me while I sleep. The girl does not blink. Another entry: the orphanage will produce purity, obedience through fire, pain is cleansing. Another: she dreams of oceans made of blood. I must correct her. The handwriting grows more frantic. She knows what we did. Locals described her as black hair down to her waist, pale hands, eyes like someone who had witnessed every sin on earth. She walked with chilling certainty, as if moving through a memory. Not a street. Witness account from a salon girl. Men looked at her like she was a gift from God. Then, like they remembered they didn't believe in God. Evelyn, or the widow, never raised her voice. Never smiled, never begged, but men followed her, and the first Klan leader vanished 3 nights later. Enter Deputy Marshal Silas Boone, federal investigator, a rational, disciplined man. He arrived in St. Aurelius to investigate the disappearances of 11 community leaders. Boone expected resistance, violence, secrecy. He did not expect the entire town to pretend nothing happened. Storekeepers shut their doors. The sheriff refused to speak. Church bells rang at 3:00 a.m. with no one in the steeple. Boone interviewed a widow, real widow, whose husband vanished. Woman, she didn't kill them, they followed her like lambs. Boone found something else, a hidden ledger with the orphanage's record of punishment. Every entry for Evelyn ended with the same phrase: unresponsive to fear. The ledger from Lamb's Mercy Seminary was not written in ink. It was written in iron gall stain, the same substance used to mark livestock. Each page was divided into 3 columns: infraction, correction, response for most. Girls, talking without permission, 3 lashes compliant, crying at night, isolation, repentant. But on Evelyn's entries, the same note repeated endlessly: correction, ineffective, no emotional shift, unresponsive to fear. As Boone scans the ledger, the camera slowly pushes closer. A final line catches his breath, attempted drowning. Girl revived herself. He reads it again, revived herself. The ink around the sentence is smeared, as if someone wrote it in a panic. Boone whispers under his breath, "What did they do to you?" We hear faint echoes, breath, not wind, as if dozens of unseen girls press their faces against the walls. The page turns by itself. Sister Agnes, she was our favorite at first, quiet, obedient, but she watched. Boone leans in. Agnes, we tried to break her spirit. That is what the Reverend wanted. A perfectly controlled soul. Boone asks what kind of punishments they used. Agnes's eyes fill with tears. There are places under that church that were never blessed. She pulls out a scrap of fabric, a piece of a girl's gown. On it, stitched by hand in small trembling letters, "Burn them." Nun's voice cracks. We did not teach her to sew. Boone witnesses the town's procession. Not a church ritual, a ritual of power. 11 men of influence, judges, sheriffs, businessmen ride through town wearing white hoods. They don't speak, they don't look around. They ride toward the abandoned docks where the river swallows sound. Locals call it the night parade of the brethren. Boone follows from a distance. He watches Evelyn emerge from the shadows like a secret the river kept. She never waves, never beckons. Yet one hooded man dismounts and follows her into the woods. He doesn't return. The following night, another does the same, and another. Boone murmurs, they're not hunting her, they're following her. The air grows colder the deeper he descends. Dust clings to old hymnals. A Bible lies open on the floor, but every page has been torn out except one. She is clothed in strength and dignity, and laughs without fear of the future. Proverbs 31:25. A whisper rides the darkness, unresponsive to fear. Boone reaches a heavy door, iron, padlocked, scored with scratches deep, frantic, human. He forces it open. Inside is a room of restraints not for bodies, but for souls. Prayer stools with blood, stained knees, water basin, blackened by mild. New a wall etched with thousands of fingernail scratches, and on the far wall written in ash, I learned fear from watching you. Boone drops the lantern, his voice shakes. Evelyn didn't escape this place. She transformed here. On the attic floor, Boone finds a hand-stitched tapestry, but it's not made of thread. It is made of strands of black hair, woven into scenes like living ink. The tapestry depicts white, hooded men walking willingly into dark woods, a woman waiting by the river, a line of throats not cut offered. Boone reels back. The realization hits, she didn't seduce them. They surrendered. The tapestry's final panel shows Evelyn walking away from the river, barefoot and unburdened, and beneath it, embroidered neatly, the river remembers what the town forgets. Boone whispers, my God, she made them choose it. Fade to black. Boone returns to Sister Agnes for clarification. The seminary's dining hall is silent. Long tables sit untouched, covered in dust. A single candle burns, though no one lit it. Agnes sits rigid, hands folded, eyes hollow. Boone demands the truth. She doesn't answer. Instead, she reaches slowly into her sleeve and places something on the table. A needle, black thread, a lock of black hair. Agnes speaks with a voice emptied of self. We thought obedience was the highest virtue. We never understood what happens to a soul when you take away choice. Boone asks what happened the night Evelyn escaped. Agnes shakes. She didn't escape. We released her. She convinced us we would be forgiven if we opened the door. Boone presses harder. What did she promise you? Agnes's eyes flick up. Rest. Boone realizes the truth only when she slumps forward, body gun still. Around her neck is a small hand-stitched message. Let me rest. The needle rolls across the table and falls to the floor. Boone studies one of Reverend Whitlock's final journal entries. We do not erase sin, we erase the self. Pages describe methods used not to punish but to dismantle: lack of sleep, forced confessions, isolation, water deprivation, scripture recited until voices broke. Boone searches deeper and finds a page glued to another. He peels them apart carefully. Underneath is a diagram of a young girl's skull. Lines are drawn around the frontal lobe with notes. Fear lives here. Remove ID and she is pure. Boone reads the last scribbled words. She does not fear death. She makes others long for it. A realization forms like ice in his bloodstream. Evelyn wasn't born dangerous. She was engineered. Boone heads to the riverbank where the missing men were last seen. A child sits on the dock, dangling his feet in the water. His clothes are ragged, eyes empty. Boone kneels beside him. Did you see anything? The boy nods once. She takes them where the river turns red. Boone's voice falters. The river doesn't turn red. The boy tilts his head. You're looking with your eyes, not with what hurts. He recites monotone, as if repeating a prayer drilled into him. When she looks at them, they remember what they've done. They remember every scream, every burning house, every night they hid behind sheets. They follow her because they deserve it. Boone whispers, how do you know? The boy blinks, because she showed me. When Boone turns to look at the river, the boy is gone. There were no footsteps leading away, only a single black hair floating on the water. Boone enters the chapel. On the altar rests the Reverend's journal, open to the final entry. It isn't written in ink, it is carved into the page. She sits at the foot of my bed. She whispers that she forgives me. Forgiveness is worse than damnation. The next line is deeper, angrier. I created her without fear, but now I cannot forget mine. Boone flips the page, an unfinished sentence. She is not God's judgment. The rest of the words trail off into a long slash through the paper, tearing it open. Boone realizes the Reverend didn't finish the sentence because he didn't choose to stop writing. His hand was forced. Boone explores the chapel's hidden corridor, discovering a narrow crawl space behind the altar. He crawls inside. Darkness presses close. The walls are covered with handprints, hundreds of them, small and desperate. Children's fingerprints. Whispers seem trapped in the wood. Boone pushes deeper until his hand touches something soft. Fabric. He pulls it toward him. It's a row of tiny nightgowns, once white, now stained with mildew. On each one is a stitched word. Obedient, penitent, pure, broken, fearless. The last gown has only one word. Widow. When Boone backs out into the sanctuary, his pulse hammering, someone else is standing there. A woman with black hair down to her waist, barefoot, calm, watching him. She tilts her head, studying him like a puzzle. Boone opens his mouth, but no sound comes. The candle behind her snuffs itself out. Dark. Boone stands frozen. The woman from the tapestry, the girl from the ledger, is real. She steps toward him slowly, not threatening, not seductive, more like someone approaching a wounded creature. You're not like them, she says. Boone forces his voice to work. You killed those men. She studies him, almost disappointed. They were already dead. I only showed them where to lay down. Boone shakes his head. They followed you? No, she corrects gently. They confessed to me, and they walked into the river because they finally understood what they had become. Boone tries to grasp her logic. You manipulated them. She looks at him with a sadness so deep it feels ancient. I reflected their own darkness. They could not bear the sight. Boone feels his breath catch. What do you want from me? I want you to choose. She places something in his hand, a small piece of cloth. White, torn from a hood, not stained with blood, stained with tears. Boone digs deeper. He searches courthouse records, hospital logs, railway manifests. Every document leads to the same truth. The missing men were never reported missing. No wives filed complaints. Businesses replaced them quietly. The town erased them, not out of fear, out of agreement. A marriage certificate surfaces. One of the men signed it the night before he vanished. Witness signature. Evelyn Vale. Boone stares at it. You married them. She appears behind him, voice soft. They were never husbands. They were confessions. I let them speak the truth they hid behind violence. Boone spins. You turned justice into seduction. No, she says. Into choice. Boone finds a sealed cabinet labeled Do Not Unlock. He breaks it open. Inside are letters from parents who believed the seminary was a sanctuary. They beg the Reverend, teach her to fear God, correct her disobedience, punish the defiance. Every envelope contains money. Realization hits with absolute clarity. The orphanage wasn't rescuing children. It was profiting from breaking them. Boone whispers, voice cracking. This place was never about faith. Evelyn stands behind him again, quiet. It was about obedience. He turns to face her. You were never the victim. No, she says. I was their consequence. Boone returns to the river. Mist clings to the surface. The current moves without a sound. Evelyn stands beside him. You don't have to follow me, she says. What happens if I walk away? You return to your world. You pretend you didn't see what power does to the powerless. And if I follow, you witness the truth and never sleep again. Her hand extends. No seduction, no coercion, just an invitation to understand what the world tried to bury. Boone looks at the water. He sees reflections not just of the 11 men, but of himself. Every failure, every moment he looked away. Every sin of silence. He steps back. No. She nods once. Good, someone must remember. Boone leaves the town at dawn. Every building looks abandoned. No faces in the windows. No footprints in the mud. He turns back only once. The town is gone. Where roads once led into St. Aurelius, now there is only forest. No chapel, no seminary. He returns to Washington and submits a report of missing men, corrupted institution, exploited children. The response arrives weeks later. No record of St. Aurelius ever existed. Case closed. Boone holds the rejection in shaking hands. He opens his bag. Inside is the tapestry made of hair. It now shows one final panel, Boone walking away from the river, and beneath it, stitched in precise black letters, "You chose to remember, fade to darkness." A single sentence glows in Boone's mind. History doesn't hide evil. People do.